Forms of communication: verbal and nonverbal. The communication process can take any of the four forms, verbal and nonverbal. Both forms usually operate together in the majority of messages you send and receive. Spoken or oral and written are both forms of verbal communication, while nonverbal consists of visual and audiovisual. Verbal communication: 1. Oral. 2. Written. 3. Visual. 4. Audio-visual. Types of verbal communication. 1. Face-to-face communication involves the speaker and the listener interacting face-to-face, such as in dyadic, small group or public speaking. 2. Telephone conversation involve two people interacting by use of telephone, though it is possible for a small group by means of teleconferencing. 3. The radio makes it possible to speak to a large number of people at the same time. 4. Written communication involves use of written forms of communication such as letters, memos, reports, circulars, etc. Spoken and written communication. Oral communication is more natural and immediate. We speak to communicate in natural and informal situations. We also speak in formal and official situations such as making a presentation or taking an interview when the target audience is present. Written communication has to be used when the other person is not present and is not available on the telephone. Long and complex messages are best conveyed in writing. Attributes, features of spoken and written communication. Oral and written communications have different attributes which have to be taken into account in choosing which one to use in a particular situation. Speed. Written communication is slower in preparation, in conveyance and in reception. It takes more time to draft, type, dispatch, and to receive and read a letter than it takes to speak, and to hear, listen to, and understand an oral message. Feedback is also slower in written communication. Record. Written communication serves as a record and can be used for future reference. It is a documentary proof, and can be used as legal evidence. Oral communication may be taped for later reference, but the authenticity of the voice can be questioned. Moreover, tapes can be edited and the message distorted. Written records and documents are more reliable and acceptable. Precision and accuracy. Written communication is more precise and accurate than oral. Choice of precise words is possible in written communication because the writer has the time to look for suitable words and phrases, and to revise the draft, if necessary. Accuracy is necessary in written communication because the receiver is not present to ask for clarification. In oral communication, it is not always possible to be so precise in the choice of words. There is also no time to seek and consider words while speaking. However, the receiver can seek clarification on the spot. Besides, oral communication has the support of vocal, tone and gestures and expressions which enrich the meaning of the words. Length. A written message is usually shorter than an oral communication. The situation of oral communication requires some preliminary and closing remarks, while for written messages there are standard formats for opening and closing which can keep the message short. Expense. Written communication requires stationery, preparation, and transmission, all of which cost money. Oral communication can also cost a great deal since it requires simultaneous presence and attention of the two parties, and getting together costs money. Costs will depend on the availability of the required persons at the particular place. Body language. Oral communication is supported by the speaker's body language and paralanguage. The speaker can control the style of delivery, giving meaning to words and sentences by voice inflection and facial expressions and gestures. Written communication is separated from the writer's bodily presence and is more in the control of the reader. The reader can give to the words the sound, inflection and stress as he chooses, and this may be affected by the reader's mood and state of mind at the time of reading. Feedback. Oral communication allows immediate feedback. The listener's face gives some feedback and the speaker can modify the message on the spot. Clarifications can be sought and given at once. A conversation can be brought to a satisfactory conclusion by continuous exchange of ideas and views. In written communication, the feedback is delayed. The reader's facial expressions cannot be seen by the writer. The reader's response is known to the writer only when the reader replies. The reader may give a cautious and guarded reply without letting the other see the really felt reaction. V. Formality. Spoken language tends to be less formal than written language. When a language is spoken, there are abbreviations and dropping of some sounds, as in can't, won't, don't. I'll, will. The vocabulary used in written English is also more formal than in spoken English. Spoken English requires learning correct pronunciation. English spelling does not always indicate how the word is pronounced. We have to learn correct pronunciation so that we can communicate with people in other parts of the world. Importance of verbal communication. I. Speed. Oral communication is fast with immediate feedback. E. Record. Written communication serves as a record and can be used for future reference. It is a documentary proof, and can be used as legal evidence. Written records and documents are more reliable and acceptable. E. Precision and accuracy. Written communication is precise and accurate. Choice of precise words is possible in written communication because the writer has the time to look for suitable words and phrases, and to revise the draft, if necessary. Accuracy is necessary in written communication because the receiver is not present to ask for clarification. IV. Length. A written message is usually shorter than an oral communication. There are standard formats for opening and closing which can keep the message short. V. Body language. Oral communication is supported by the speaker's body language and paralanguage which enrich meaning. V. Feedback. Oral communication allows immediate feedback. The listener's face gives some feedback and the speaker can modify the message on the spot. Clarifications can be sought and given at once. A conversation can be brought to a satisfactory conclusion by continuous exchange of ideas and views. V. Formality. Verbal communication allows for choice between being formal or informal. Spoken language tends to be less formal than written language. The vocabulary used in written English is also more formal than in spoken English. Nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is all communication that is not spoken or written. Nonverbal communication has a great impact and influence on the receiver's decoding or interpretation of any message. Types of nonverbal communication. 1. Body movement, body language. The study of body movement is known as kinesics and it deals with all the ways people use their bodies to communicate or enhance their verbal communication. Body movement includes posture, gestures, facial expressions, and eye contact. Posture, the way you position and move your body, can communicate a great deal about you. For example, leaning toward or leaning away from someone in conversation can convey your degree of interest, attentiveness, or involvement. Turning your back or standing to leave can convey a lack of interest or signal the end to the conversation. Gestures are any movement of the hands, fingers, or arms. Open arms can signify honesty and openness. Facial expressions are the arrangement of facial muscles to communicate messages. They include the mouth, cheeks, eyes, eyelids, eyebrows, forehead, nose, and chin. The face is probably the most observed part of the body when we communicate with others, and this is not without reason. Our face usually communicates our internal, emotional experience. Eye contact can also communicate several different types of messages. Direct eye contact in our culture can communicate involvement, intimidation, and intimacy. A diverted or downcast gaze communicates a different message. Our eyes can also communicate dominance and submission. We can stare someone down, with a prolonged gaze that is not returned by the other person, or we can avoid or break eye contact when talking with a superior, such as a boss or supervisor. 2. Paralanguage. Paralanguage is how we speak. Paralanguage includes pitch, volume, rate, and quality. Pitch refers to the highness or lowness of our voice. The pitch of our voice is primarily determined by the physical length and thickness of our vocal cords, but it can rise if we are frightened, anxious, or excited, and it can lower if we are attempting to sound more powerful or authoritative. Volume refers to the relative softness or loudness of our voice. We often speak in a characteristic volume. Some individuals talk loudly, whereas others talk in almost a whisper. We can also adjust our volume to meet the requirements of the communication setting we are in. In a noisy, crowded room, we raise our volume and speak above the other voices, whereas during a movie or quiet dinner, we lower our voice. Rate is how fast or slow we speak. People tend to have their own personal rate of speech. Some speak fast, others slow. We tend to increase our rate of speech when we're excited, frightened, or nervous, and we tend to decrease our rate of speech when we're uncertain, thoughtful, and sad. Quality refers to the overall sound of our voice. Each human voice has a distinctive tone. The quality of one's voice may be characterized as soothing, harsh, strident, or calm. We each have a distinctive quality to the way we sound. Can you recall your mother's voice? Your father's voice? Your best friend's voice? Often, when answering the telephone, we immediately recognize the caller by his or her voice quality. 3. Personal presentation. Our clothing is one of the most obvious and public displays of who we are and what we want to communicate to others. The primary consideration is popularity, attractiveness, and status. We can create a variety of public images simply by the clothing we wear. Our grooming can also reflect and communicate messages to the world. The length and style of our hair, bathing routines, makeup, cologne and perfume, finger and toenail painting, even for men these days, and many other grooming habits communicate a great deal about who we are and how we want to be perceived. Touching is the most intimate form of nonverbal communication behavior. Touching behavior, or haptics, as it is called by social scientists, includes all behavior that involves the skin. Primarily, touching behavior deals with our hands and how we use them to communicate. 4. Proxemics. Proxemics, the study of our use of space, and was first introduced by anthropologist Edward Hall in his book The Hidden Dimension. By observing conversations between people, Hall discovered that our personal space could be broken down into 4 zones or distances. Intimate distance, 0 to 18 inches, is reserved for intimate activities include making love, holding intimate or confidential conversations, hugging, kissing, and snuggling. This is often referred to as our personal bubble. Only our most intimate relationships are permitted into this area. If an uninvited person invades our personal bubble, whether it's a stranger sitting next to us on an empty bench or a person getting too close for comfort during a conversation, we usually move away slightly to maintain our intimate distance. Personal distance, 18 inches to 4 feet, is used for most conversations with family, friends, and most acquaintances. Social distance, 4 to 12 feet, is the distance we feel most comfortable with transacting business, sitting during committee meetings, and interacting with the hotel clerk, the supermarket cashier, or the police officer giving us a ticket. Public distance, 12 to 25 feet, is used for public ceremonies, speeches, large group meetings, and class lectures. If the distance between people is greater than 25 feet, communication is often limited to shouting and exaggerated nonverbal gestures. The distance of your personal space changes depending on the setting, the people involved, and how you are feeling at the moment. Cultural factors also play an important role in determining proxemic distancing and personal comfort. 5. Sign language. Sign language is a form of nonverbal communication commonly used for the hearing impaired. It involves the use of hands to make symbolic gestures which have specific meanings. Sign language is taught in formal learning institutions for communication with the hearing impaired, such as the use of Braille. Communicating using sign language for the visually impaired may take the form of fingerspelling, signing exact English, c. Kenya Sign Language, KSL. NB. Find out what the 3 concepts entail. Importance of nonverbal communication. A. Nonverbal methods have almost instant effect because of quicker grasp by the receiver. Speed in conveyance and response makes nonverbal methods extremely useful in critical situations like traffic signs and signals. B. Visual nonverbal methods aid verbal communication. maps, charts and graphs are necessary for conveying information or plans related to geography, locations, data, and most of the sciences. A large amount of complex data can be presented in a compact form. One page can convey information that would need several pages of words. It makes information available conveniently, at a glance for comparisons. C. Response to visuals and plain sounds is more powerful than to language. A cry of agony arouses stronger response than a sad story. A film is more effective than a written story. TV news is more interesting than on radio. D. It is the best method to convey information to illiterate people. Containers of poisons are marked with a skull and crossbones as a warning. Illiterate drivers manage with the nonverbal traffic signals. Films are used to explain processes to people who may not follow oral explanations easily. Nonverbal communication can overcome the barrier of language. E. Sign language helps the hearing impaired to communicate, learn and be able to work like any other physically normal persons. Functions of nonverbal communication. A. Message reinforcement or complementation of verbal messages, for example, a warm welcome and a firm handshake. B. Negation of the verbal message. C. Message substitution, i.e. using nonverbal without verbal communication such as pointing. D. Message accentuation, intensification, i.e. smiling as you say, "It is nice to meet you." E. Message regulation, i.e. lowering the voice to mark the end of a turn or eye contact to nominate the next speaker. Visual and audio visualcommunication communication. Visual communication aids. It includes pictures, posters, graphs, diagrams, charts and billboards, etc. Organization make extensive use of pictures such as blueprints, progress charts, maps, visual aids in training programs, scale models of products and similar devices. The use of such means of communication is increasing in training and education as well as in organizational communication. Pictures can provide powerful visual images as suggested by the proverb, "A picture is worth 1,000 words." In fact, many companies have designed their advertisement copies in which only pictures are used. However, pictures should be combined with well-chosen words and action to tell the complete message. Audiovisual communication aids. Audiovisual communication involves use of telecast films on the cinema, slides on a projector screen, computer, television and video. It is the latest medium of communication. It is a combination of sight and sound. Audiovisual communication is suitable for publicity, mass propaganda and mass education. Large business firms frequently make use of this technique to educate their workers and to popularize their products. The working of a new product can be effectively demonstrated through audio visuals. Audio communication is suitable mostly for mass publicity and mass educations. Importance of audio, visual and audio-visual communication aids. I. Ability to record information for future reference. E. The computer and Internet has enhanced search, processing and storage of information and generally enhanced speed and efficiency in communication. E. Audio-visual communication tends to have longer memorability due to use of multiple channels, which makes it suitable for teaching, learning and advertisement. IV. The Internet services through mobile phone and computer has improved social networking through Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. V. Faster feedback due to speed in communication such as mobile phone. V. Audio, visual and audio-visual communication is a source of entertainment, through music, video pictures, and social chat with friends on Facebook, Twitter and WhatsApp. Weaknesses of visual and audio-visual. I. The mobile phone has enhanced coordination of crime while IT has enhanced cybercrime such as money laundering. E. The initial cost of buying and installing such communication devices and the operating cost is generally high for most people. E. Communication process may be hindered due to failure in network reception such as in Internet, radio and television. IV. Illiteracy may hinder the use of communication gadgets since it need a good operating knowledge such the use of computer. V. The use of audio-visual communication has reduced the need for face-to-face interaction. People now prefer to use the social media and calling, which hinder close social interaction. V. There is a possibility of information leak when someone taps your communication. This is common in mobile telephony. Young people may also get content meant for adults. V. Graphs, charts and posters take time to construct. V. Lack of feedback in the use of mass media such as radio and television. Barriers to audio, visual, and audio-visual communication. I. The recipient must have communication gadget with compatible features as the sender to be able to receive the message. E. The initial cost of buying and installing such communication devices and the operating cost is generally high for most people. E. Network and airwave failure may hinder communication process over telephone, internet, radio and television. IV. Illiteracy may hinder the use of communication gadgets since it need a good operating knowledge such the use of computer. V. Breakdown of communication gadgets. Computers, cameras, slide projectors, video and radio gadget may break down when they are needed for use. V. Lack of electric power may hinder use of electronic communication gadgets such as computers, projectors, slide projectors and television. V. Language barrier. Most mass media broadcast in official languages which many people may not understand. Ways of overcoming the barriers to visual and audio-visual communication. I. In a business organization, the management should always ensure the audio, visual and audio-visual channels are always working properly. E. The management should always ensure that networks and airwave receptions are adequate for proper communication. E. Always ensure that there is electricity or battery power and a proper backup before beginning to use audio, visual and audio-visual communication gadgets. IV. Your choice of medium should be dictated by the literacy level, physical location and technological capacity of the receiver. V. The choice of language should always depend on the linguistic knowledge and competence of your receiver. V. Mass media should broadcast in a variety of languages. The availability of channels broadcasting in local languages ensures this. Channels of communication. Channel is the medium that carries the message from the source to the target audience. All channels can be classified as written, face-to-face-to-face, electronic and nonverbal. Choice of communication medium. You need to consider several aspects in choosing a medium for a particular message. The main aspects are: A. The type of audience you want to reach. B. The speed with which the message should be conveyed. The pressure of time and the distance between the sender and the receiver influence the choice of the medium. Some media are faster and can travel distances rapidly, like the telephone, the fax and the email. These media also have the advantage of being person-to-person. C. Need for confidentiality of the message is an important consideration. The choice will certainly be influenced by requirement of secrecy. All media do not ensure the same secrecy of the message. Messages like warning memo, report on a customer's credit standing, demand for overdue payment, and so on, are confidential. They cannot be sent by media like telegram or telex or fax even if they are urgent. D. Need for accuracy in transmission is not the same for all messages. If the content to be transmitted is mainly data, you make the choice for accuracy and speed in transmitting. E. Need for reliability of the medium is an important factor. Sending a message by hand delivery is more reliable than ordinary mail. Registered post is more reliable than ordinary mail. F. Cost of the medium and its relative importance and urgency. G. Availability of a particular medium to the sender and to the receiver is obviously an affecting factor. You can use only those media which both you and the intended receiver can access. You may have a fax machine, but if the receiver does not have one and has no arrangements for receiving a fax message, you cannot use that medium. H. Feedback capacity of the medium. For some messages, you need immediate feedback. You have to use a medium which will enable you to get it at once, like the telephone. I. Availability of hard copy for record. J. Formality of the medium must be suitable to content of the message. A letter of congratulation is more formal and has a different effect from conveying the same message orally. K. Intensity and complexity of the message is a major factor. Many messages in an organization have an emotional content, which influences the choice considerably. The emotional content is not carried equally by all media.